Hello everyone and welcome back to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah and today we're talking about preventing impulse purchases. I think for me, between the pressures of rising costs and just feeling like so many things are sponsored or ad placement is everywhere, and just the constant pressure of buy this, this will solve your problems, I think it can all get to be a lot. Many companies are probably honestly desperate to get people to purchase their product, and there's a lot of different kind of manipulative games that are played to trick us into thinking we must buy this product or tricking us into spending more. So I wanted to put this list together just as a helpful tool for you, especially if you're feeling like you want to purchase certain things that you know you really don't need, and also to have in your back pocket as we start to see different sales happening and as sort of the end of the year countdown begins, where people really start to ramp up their spending. I'd love for you to be able to instead meet your financial goals or prioritize what's more important. I love little acronyms or wordplay, so these are things to help us prevent these impulse purchases. They all start with an R. So without further ado, let's jump right in. The first R is to resist. Resist the temptation by waiting 24 hours before actually purchasing something that you see. When we see an ad for something, or we see someone else with something, we might initially think, oh wow, that's interesting, I want that. I think that could work for my life. We are more tempted to make a rash decision at that time. So if we say, you know what, I'm going to think about it for 24 hours, that craving to purchase it may pass. And during that time, you can continue thinking about whether that is a good fit. Which brings us to our second R, and that is reflect or reflection. Reflect about why you want something. What is it about this that makes you think it will work for you? Do you already have similar items that you bought for the same purpose or the same goal that you don't actually use or that didn't live up to the hype? If we have made mistakes with purchases, let's really try to not make those same mistakes again. So take the time, you're taking your 24 hours, you're resisting that initial temptation, and then you're going to reflect about it. Figure out if this makes sense for you. My next R is ready to use. Do I need this item now? Am I ready to use it right now? Or would it just sit in a box after it arrives and I wouldn't really get into it? Is this for now or is it for a long time down the road? If there is something that's not going to be used right away, you probably don't need it, or at the very least, put it on a list to see if you might need it later. Don't just spend the money now, use your hard-earned money now to have something that doesn't do anything for you now and just sits around. That's the worst. And I think for me, if I'm purchasing something, I want to be using it right away. I want to make sure that it doesn't sit in the box, because if it does, I might forget about it. The warranty on it could lapse or expire faster. The expiration could expire before I get around to using it. The return policy could lapse before I get around to using it. It's important that we are purchasing things in a timely fashion when we're ready to use them and not stocking up in a major way before we're ready. The next R to prevent these impulse purchases is to research. This is one of my favorites, but it's so important after you see something, before you're purchasing, do the research. I'm talking about, at the very least, comparing where it's sold and comparing prices at these different places. You might be looking at reviews, for instance. You might be seeing if there are similar types of products that might be a better fit for you. When we conduct this research, it helps us make a much more informed choice. Sure, you might see something that's interesting to you, but chances are there are a lot of other options or ways that you can buy something more affordably or get better quality for the price elsewhere, and then you're making an informed choice that you're less likely to regret. So I encourage you, do the research before you're spending your money. Why I think the research is also so important is that you want to prevent yourself from more work later. If you buy something impulsively and then you decide you don't want it later, you have to decide what you do with it. Can you go return it? Do you have to donate it? Do you sell it? Do you throw it away? Do you feel guilty? Instead, just do the research up front so that you're more likely to be satisfied with what you end up purchasing, and maybe you won't even buy it after all. I can't tell you how many times there was something that looked enticing, let's say on Instagram, for an ad there, and maybe it was even a creator I follow using it. And then after doing a deep dive, sometimes I'll search reviews on Reddit specifically because people are more honest on there, it seems, and there's more dirt on different brands, because a lot of brands don't show their low reviews on their websites. So when you really dig around, you'll see probably, oh, this is a scam, or they, were awful in this way. And that can help you say, okay, I was a little tempted, but we're not doing it. Next up, let's reflect about right and wrong. Was this product or item made ethically? Is this company an ethical company or supporting goals that I agree with? I think sometimes when you really start to look for this, you can be quite disappointed with all of the companies who are doing really bad things. And of course, it's hard to have a pulse on every brand that's out there. I think, though, if you are going to be spending significant funds, you want your dollars to be going in a good place, or at least I do try to do that when I can. So that's another great way to prevent impulse purchases, and this can even be part of your research step that we talked about last. The next R is resourcefulness. Do you already have something at home that could satisfy a similar purpose? When we're tempted to buy something new, chances are we might already have something almost identical, or at least something that can be used in a similar way. For instance, you might want a certain piece of clothing, but do you already have something similar with clothing? Maybe there's a new skincare product or jewelry, or maybe even a food ingredient or a supplement. Look at what you have, shop your own space first, because guess what? You already have it. And I do know that is a satisfying feeling when you sort of forgot about something or weren't using something you already had to the fullest, but then you rediscover it and realize, oh yeah, this is why I bought this in the first place. I do like this, or this makes me feel good. When we shop our own space first, not only does it help us save money and prevent bringing new stuff into our space, but we can also continue working through and optimizing what we already have. The next R is reality check. And you could probably take this a lot of different ways. In this case, I'm going to approach it financially. Sometimes when sales are happening or it's a holiday that feels like it's a shopping holiday, it's important for us to ask ourselves, is this item actually on sale, or is this an actual real sale? I know multiple places do this. I think Amazon is an easier place to see them use this tactic, but I've noticed in the past that certain items, the price goes up prior to a Prime Day sale or one of those sales. So they raise the price ahead of time, then they show the big discount, wow, what a huge savings, but then it's not really a discount when you compare it to the price it was before. There's certainly other stores that do that too. And other times we might think, oh my gosh, it's this big sale, it's Black Friday, we have to, do all of our shopping this time. And then they're only offering 10% off or 15% off. It's that's not really that crazy of a sale. Of course, this fits into our resist, taking the time to reflect about our purchases. If you're thinking about something longer term, you're probably following the price over time and gaining an awareness of what types of sales might happen. But don't just go on a shopping frenzy just because you think it's, everything's going to be a good price. Do your research and take the time to reflect about these. We're really incorporating all these R's as we go along here. Next, let's think about returns. What's your return track record? How likely are you to return an item that you don't end up loving or it does not end up being a fit for you? I know personally, I love to get my money back if there is something that doesn't work for me. So I have a very strong return record, but I also know other people. There's someone actually in my extended family, I won't name names, but they actually just don't do returns ever. It's just something they don't do it, even though they could get that money back. And I'm thinking, why on earth would you not do your returns? But I know there's other people like that. And if you know you don't return items, then you really need to reel it in and not do as much impulse purchasing and think about that when you go into something. And in some cases, you do returns, but if you kind of hate doing returns, then let's use more intentionality. There are certain things that probably shouldn't be purchased online, even though you can do free returns, because it's less likely to work. Certain types of clothing are a good example if it's going to be a little bit more specific. For instance, I would probably never buy jeans online because how would I know what works? There's also a lot of good ones at the thrift store anyway, so that's a good option. But it's important for us to reflect about our own return track record and also to make sure that there is a return policy. A lot of supplements, for instance, don't allow you to return an open item. And the last thing I'll say on this also is that even though something can be returned, unfortunately, things can get a little dicey about what happens with those returned goods afterwards. I haven't looked into this for all brands, but I do know that for a lot of companies, what is returned cannot be resold or just ends up being wasted. As a business owner myself, I have seen when people do return a product, or back when I used to sell the courses, if they return a course, it ultimately ends up costing the business money because there's the shipping logistics or, whatever payment processors took their chunks or their fees. So I do try, if it's a business I do respect, I want to try to really only buy with confidence for what I will actually use, because I don't want to cost them money. And even if it's a business I don't care about, I don't want to create extra waste and just have stuff that's for sure going to get just thrown away or, sold in one of those junk boxes. So it is, I think, important to really reflect about the big picture of the items and not just thinking about when you're actually using it or trying it out, but beyond you using it. If you do send it back, or even the length of time you'll have that product and what happens then at the end. Lastly, let us remember our major financial goals. Impulse spending and making fun purchases in the moment can feel exciting. It can bring a sense of joy or control in life, especially in bigger, uncertain economic times, but it doesn't help us move the needle towards our goals. So whatever your financial goals are, I know currently for us, a big financial goal is continuing to pay down our mortgage early to give that financial freedom. And so even though you might think, oh, it's just a $20 item, no big deal, every purchase has the potential to be working towards your goals. All the spending that we do can really add up. And a great way to look at this is even on your bank statement or your credit card statements. Add those numbers up. They probably even have a tool to show you your categories of spending. And while I'm not here to vilify every purchase, and there is definitely, times to indulge or treat yourself on different things, let's just make sure these are well planned, and overall really just trying to avoid those impulse purchases that we might regret. Some of this may have come across a little tough, but ultimately I do hope that you're able to not have financial regret. And I'm a big advocate as well, from a minimalist perspective, the less that we buy means less clutter that we have to deal with later. So I think that's a double win. Thank you so much for watching. I'll put some other videos here for you to check out. And if you'd like, subscribe to the channel up here. I'll see you next time. Bye.